This is Baruch Flashman here at the Chikun Elevator Kollel, and this is the Zohar that I was supposed to say earlier today, but I was traveling today, so I didn't get a chance to look at the Torah today during the daytime. We're in Parshas Terumah. Today is actually just post Rosh Chodesh, and we're starting into the second day of Adar. It's a time of tremendous simcha. Let's look at what the Zohar in Terumah has to say. Last time we were here, there was a pasuk, and we worked the pasuk. The pasuk says, Rebbe Shimon pasuk, because Rebbe Shimon began, and he said, Mi zos anishkanfacha k'mo shachar. He is the one who gazes out like the morning. In other words, it shines bright like the morning, like the sun when it first starts to appear. Yafa kalvana, it's beautiful like the moon. Barak achama, and shines bright like the sun. Iyuma kinidgolos. It's Lashon dagel, or flag. So it's awesome like the flags of mighty nations. Then it comes and it looks like this. This phrase, mi zos, and we learned this yesterday, it has multiple meanings. Mi refers to Bina, because Bina, this is Gematria 50. Bina is the 50th gate. That's one way of understanding it. But also he says over here that it's also open to question about me exactly, because in the lower worlds, it's really not understandable for us what's going on in Bina. Bina is beyond our ken. So then you have the word Zos, and Zos refers to Malchus. So you have these two female qualities. One is called Bina, one is called Zos. So you have the father, and let's say the mother and the daughter, so to speak. So it's a Raza de Trin Alma Mischat Ben Kahada. So what we really want to talk about is the secret of two worlds that come together. So what, in fact, are these two worlds? Well, the two worlds he described in the Matuk are Rachel and Leah, the wives of Yaakov Avinu. So Rachel and Leah, if you think of the secret of this, is that imagine their anpin as a line, a straight line with a front and a back. And on the back of him is his wives. His wives are attached. Remember, this is a biblical idea at the very beginning of Bereshis. So he says that they're attached to him on the back of him. And one is on the top, that's Leah. And Leah corresponds to the area in Zer Anpin, which is that line, which would be called the head, or the beginning, the top of the neck, that this is the place where Bina is located. So he says that Leah is actually an outgrowth of Bina. On the other hand, that's the top part of the wives of Yaakov. The bottom part of the wives of Yaakov is Rachel. Rachel is called the Akaris Abayit. She's really the root here. And everything that comes from Leah ultimately needs to wind up in Rachel. So he says, the darga yulo le'elo. So he said, me is the upper level, up above, beyond the ken of human beings. So it's the beginning of everything. And it's really there. You could ask this question, what is it? Or who is it? Because it's beyond us. Like you say, like the su marom einechem. So lift up. So this is Lashon Terumah. So that's the word marom, is like Terumah, lifting something up. Einechem ra'u mi bara elo, and see who it is that created this. It's who that created it. Who's who? Bina. In other words, Bina is the mother, and so everything comes out from her. Now we go to that was a little bit more of that piece. It says that Zos Darga Detal the Sata. So this is the Darga Tatal the Sata. The low level is down below. That's Rachel. Alma the Tal, she represents the physical world, this world that we live in. The Tavaichu Trin Alma, and the two of them really represents two completely and different Weltanschauungs. B'chibura chada, but they come together and they become one. B'kishura chada kachada, and with one knot as like one. Now, let's come over here and go to the next one. Let me see. Excuse me. He says, Masha calls of Zois. So he says this word Zois. Yeah, and I found the matuk. I really was getting lost. Hainu daga de tal the sata alma de tal. What does that mean? He madrega tachtoina. This is the lowest level. The mata shehi olam tachton, which is the lowest world, olam ha'asiya, for those of you who are familiar with the worlds. The Hainu Rachel shehi tachtoina b'Leah, that Rachel, which is below Leah, V'hi alma is Galia. This is the world that is the revealed world. She'efshe lahasig bo v'lomer zos hi, and it's possible to reach it. In other words, to designate it, to see it. And you could say, called it Zos, this, pointing at it. Zos he, that's her, the one that you could recognize because it's physical, more physical. For the Vaychu Trin Almin, so they represent two different worlds. That V'shteichem Rachel v'Leah, Hein Beis Alomas Kanal, they are actually two different worlds. B'chibur Chada Shalapamim, so he says that this is what we want to understand. And now he's really going to talk about creation a little bit more in Sod. So he says, Shalapamim is Chavros Yachad, sometimes they come together. V'nas is parts of Echad, and they become one parts of them. So therefore, when it says that it shines, it's talking about just one of them. Behind the Be'ez and Nesira. So now he says like this, what do you mean by this? They come and they're just shining like one. So what is this? Behind the Be'ez and Nesira, this is the time when the female attribute, let's say, of Zer Anpin is on his back, and then becomes removed. And this happens every morning. It's really dealing with Yaakov and Rachel. Well, I guess and Leah too. So he said behind the Be'ez and Nesira. So at the time that these removed from the back of him, Kashanai the Ima, and when does this happen? This happens because the mochin that come from Ima, Mislavshin Basocham, become clothed inside of the backside. So he says, well, what happens like this? Normally, the pattern of Shefa that we deal with is that the male receives the mochin, he represents the letter Vav. He gets the mochin from the letter Hey that's up above it, and transports that through himself, through his different midos, into ultimately to his Yesod, where the Yichud takes place with Rachel. Okay, that's what normally happens. But then at the time of the Nesira, it changes. And over there, the Nai, which is called the aspect of Bina that comes into Zer Anpin, leaves Zer Anpin, and goes directly into the Nukva side. And then builds up those Nukvas, those female astrobits brutes, which are a combined Leah and Rachel, which is what he's talking about. They actually are able to move from the back of Zer Anpin to become a small dot to begin with, at the bottom of Zer Anpin, and then move to his front and grow up according through the course of the Shmona Esrei to the full height of Zer Anpin, and in the Shmona Esrei, a Yichud takes place at Sim Shalom. So he said, B'loshen Yachid, behind the Be'ez and Nesira, Kishanai the Ima Mislavshin B'socham, that the lie of Ima, that is Ima herself, her Netzachot Yisod, go into the female aspect. And instead of going filtered through Zah, it goes into the females directly, which builds them up. Sha'oz Hem Neksharos Yachad, because when that happens, Rachel and Leah become one. They become bound together. Chada Gachada. So he says there's one binding. It's a oneness like oneness. A translation, Bekesher Echad Yachad, with one night and oneness. The Visharak Shteichem B'Yachad, because it has to take both of them. Yaspiku v'yachilu lahalbish b'sochem, they have the ability, they have sufficient strength. V'yachilu, and the ability, lahalbish b'sochem, to be able to house within themselves, as orach, he says, actually the light of the Nai De'ima. I don't think it should be or, I think it should be or, that's what I think, it should be that. B'sochem as oracha, that is orach, the Nai De'ima. So he says, etc., etc., etc. Well, that's the idea. We're learning some deep sod over here, little by little. This is Baruch Fleischman at the Tikkun Elevator Kolov, and thank you for listening. I want you to know there are a few people that listen to the shiurim on the Zohar, but we've seen so many times that everybody is saying that the shiurim on the Zohar are the big deal. So, congratulations, and keep going. This is Baruch.